All right, guys. Thanks very much for joining me today for Grip It and Rip It, how to introduce and use golf in a primary school PE curriculum. A little bit about me. My name's Casey Young. I am currently teaching in Victoria. Obviously, very tricky times over here. Just dealing with it one day at a time, as the footballers would say. I graduated the University of Tasmania in 2018, and this is my third year presenting at ACHPER Tas. So thanks very much to the team for having me back presenting this year. I have a genuine passion and love for physical education. Personally, it's helped me overcome many different setbacks and personal circumstances, not just as a teacher, but I suppose as a student in physical education. But sport and physical activity in general has certainly become a part of me, and I have an emotional connection with the subject and with the area. And I suppose as an educator, I want my students and the people that are affected by these presentations to really have that emotional connection as well with the subject. So today I'll be presenting on how to use golf in a primary school PE setting, something that we probably don't traditionally associate with our curriculum. And if we do, it's more so looked at as a recreational pursuit in secondary years. So we're looking at how can we introduce these students to golf, a lifelong physical activity, early on in their lives, to then pursue more and more later and later in their lives. So we'll kick off with a fun little video. So I think that sort of hits the nail on the head with a lot of people's relationship with golf. It is a very temporal sport. We can love it, we can hate it some days, but we also love and hate it within the same round of golf that we play. So it's a good one to get us rolling. So let's talk about lifelong physical activities. It's certainly something that has been a talking point in physical education for some years now, and the push due to different circumstances within our society, such as obesity, diabetes, physical inactivity and sedentariness. We're looking at introducing more lifelong and more accessible physical activities to our students, rather than those organised sport and team-based high-intensity sports that we would traditionally look at. So in 2018, Sport Australia conducted a study of the top 20 participated sports and physical activities in Australia. So obviously the top three are sort of no surprise. Everyone can go walking. A lot of people can access the gym and do different fitness regimes. Swimming is another accessible one. So those recreational pursuits are really accessible, and they'll always be top of the tree for those lifelong, because they're low intensity, low impact on the body, and we can access them really at no cost or minimal cost. But as we head down the list into the more organised team sports, we start to see a decrease in participation, because this measurement was taken by students in what sports and activities they participated outside of school, but also from 18 plus years of age, what sports they were participating in. So we're moving away from the school setting and seeing what people are participating outside of those institutional areas. So golf was probably the top ranked sport, recognised sport, with just under 1.2 mil. But then we go further down the list and we look at those traditional sports that we would normally look at in a PE curriculum. Basketball, AFL, netball. Soccer was, I think 6 or 7. But 11, 13, 14, 15 are sports that we would normally use in our physical education curriculum, especially in Australia. So when I saw this study, I really started to question my curriculum and what I was really teaching my students. Is it worthwhile to teach and base my curriculum around these big four sports? Or is it more worthwhile to introduce other sports and physical activities such as golf, swimming, gym and fitness, or even bushwalking and orienteering, is it more worthwhile to introduce those ones to our students so they can engage with them earlier on and pursue them more as they go on in their later life? So why golf? Well, I'm a golf nut. I love it. I study it, watch it. I'm not amazing at it by any stretch of the imagination, but I love it, and I love the individual competitiveness that it brings out in me. We are trying to improve each round of golf, each hole, each shot, every single time we play it. It's universal. It's played all over the world. It's big in America. It's big in Europe. It's big in New Zealand and Australia, but it's becoming increasingly popular in Asia, South America, and Africa, with many world-class tournaments starting to go into those different countries. It's non-gender bias. We are seeing a higher participation rate of females in sport, in golf, sorry. It is lifelong, as we've mentioned, but also it really stimulates and challenges that mental side of sport that we often love as PE teachers, and has huge psychological implications and benefits that we will also look into later in this presentation. So how can you get your hands on a golf program and something that's going to be best suited to the primary school setting? Well, sporting schools, which I'm sure many of you would have heard of, have amazing range of resources and programs available to us using their funding. The My Golf program is terrific and something that I have used the last 2 years. It comes with an amazing equipment pack with modified golf clubs, both left and right-handed. They have a larger head size, which makes it easier for the students to access the ball and hit it and really get that, I suppose, external feedback from the shot to see it rise up in the air and go distances. We have the softer balls for safety reasons, but they also fly really well through the air. We have putters in there. We have hitting mats, tees, rubber tees that go through the hitting mats, and there are also little discs that we use as holes. It comes with an amazing resource pack that's linked with the Australian curriculum for 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9, 10. I would really encourage you guys, if it's not My Golf that you're accessing, I would encourage you guys to get on there at least one term throughout the year and access a program, whether it be driven by that provider or delivered by you as the teacher, because it's an amazing professional learning opportunity for you guys. It's great to access for the students to really expose them to those different sports that are around their community. We talk about the movement skills in golf, and golf is one of those really complex and often unique specialised movement skills that takes years to master, but it derives from really basic fundamental movement skills, from the two-handed strike, from a high tee or a low tee, as we can see in those pictures. The forehand strike as well has the same biomechanical movements. But also, I think when we talk about projecting an object, and we're talking about different force, speed, and direction of that projection, as well as weight transference and that sequential hip and shoulder rotation that we often talk about as PE teachers, we can link it to other skills such as the underarm throw, overarm throw, and even the soccer kick and the punt kick if we really want to get technical. But with these movement skills, there's got to be vertical alignment, and vertical alignment is something that I'm huge on. I don't have a skill or a movement in my PE curriculum that doesn't have later developmental extensions to it. So we start from the basic movements and then we gradually extend on them through the developmental years, not through the year levels, because a student may be at a foundation level in year 3, as we know. So we've got to make sure that we sequence it in a developmental sequence rather than the year levels. So we begin with striking from a hand off the ground. So a large ball and using their palm to hit it off the ground. Then we introduce using a striking implement. So it might be one of the waffle bats. It might be one of the hand straps that they put onto their hand and whack the ball with that off the ground. Then we can start to look at the two-handed strike with the fundamental movement skill development. So we're looking at striking with two hands side on through the ball and really rotating with those hips and shoulders. But we can tier that through the different constraints of the activity. So starting with a large ball and a large implement. A large ball, and then we can start to decrease the size of the implement. Then we can go to smaller balls, smaller implements to really test them. Around about 5, 6s, but again, it's that developmental readiness that we talk about. We start to introduce that full swing of golf. So really driving back with a larger swing and through the ball, through the full golf swing. We've also got putting as well that we can introduce in there. And then when we head into the secondary years, and even later in life, to be honest, at 20 to 30, we're still trying to master these different skills of pitching, chipping, bunker shots, but then you can really start to get technical with draws, fades, cuts, and lower balls to counteract if you're hitting into the wind, for example. So what does it look like in the PE program? That's what we're here to talk about. So from foundation through to year 6, what does golf and that developmental sequence look like? So if we're talking about foundation year 2, we're looking at just the basic fundamental movement skills, getting students exposed to them and starting to get them into a recognised movement sequence. We can also look at trial and error. If I hit that ball, did it do what I wanted it to do? If it didn't, what do I need to change? So for example, really basic cognitive questioning such as, did your ball reach the target? No. What do I need to do? I need to hit it with more force. So, or I could move that ball closer. So different questioning such as that. An activity I love using is gate golf, where students have to strike a ball from the ground with their open palm, or you could introduce an implement. So they start on a poly spot here, and they are striking a ball from the ground to go through the gates. If they go through the gates, which are the cones, they get to pick their ball up, reposition on a new dot, and go again and keep trying to build as many points as they can. Leveling up or leveling down the activities, as you can see, we can introduce a striking implement to make it a little bit harder, make the gates smaller. We could make the area bigger. To level down, we could, rather than make it, I suppose, 360 or dynamic, we could use it just a linear, so hitting straight towards their own gate with a partner. Or you could allow multiple hits. So rather than trying to get it through one hit, you could allow them to gradually build it up to get closer and closer into a position where they can hit it through the gate easily. When we head to year 3, 4, we're looking at refining the movement skills. So we're looking at making sure that it's more coordinated, fluent, and rhythmical, rather than that broken performance that we see, and really regimented performance that we see in 1-2s. I like to also introduce the rules of golf, and this might be really basic, scoring systems and fair play. So year 3, 4 is my year level where I start to talk about rules, scoring systems, and fair play, so that in 5, 6, and 7, 8, they have that self-regulation foundation, so they can umpire, score, and regulate fair play themselves within the activities. So Ring of Fire is an activity that I really like doing with my 3, 4s, to introduce basic rules, scoring, but also refine their movement skills of the two-handed strike. So we've got Ring of Fire here. You set up a box with 4 cones, and they're striking an object from the ground or from a low cricket tee, and trying to land that ball inside the box. Each time they successfully land it inside the box, they make it slightly smaller, and they can differentiate that themselves. Level up, add a hoop in the middle for bonus points, or you could change the golf equipment. Level down, larger ball, shorter implement, change to gates rather than a box, so they can just hit through rather than getting that timing correct. In years 5, 6, we're looking at the specialised movement skills and applying them in a variety of movement situations. So this is when we start to look at golf itself and the actual swing. So we're talking about the biomechanical movements associated with golf by lifting the club up, getting underneath the ball and following through with that different hip and shoulder rotations. Over the river is a really popular game that we play in 5, 6s, and it can be used in 7, 8, 9, 10, if we're using golf in those secondary years. So basically in pairs or in groups, and safety is really important here when you're starting to use golf equipment. We're looking at elevating the ball over a no-go zone to land in a target area. When they've done that, they leave their balls. They then go and swap the club with their partner and head behind the safety line that's positioned well back from the hitting mat. To make it harder, I like to use different zones. So I use the 4 cones to make boxes in that target area for bonus points. We could add holes in there so students hit their shot and then actually go and finish off with the putter to get it into the hole for a score. To level down, shorten the distance, or just allow it to bounce in the target zone rather than land and stop inside it. So that's how it's sort of sequenced from foundation to year 6 with that vertical alignment in my curriculum. But the My Golf program and resource pack has lots and lots of different activities that clearly link with the Australian curriculum and are vertically aligned throughout the years. So the actual swing of golf, we all love an acronym in PE. We are the acronym KINGS, or Analogy Kings, as I like to call it, in the school setting. So GAS is the one that My Golf like to use, and I love it. Grip, so making sure their thumbs are down the spine and making a Y with their arms and the club down. So that's the stem of the Y, and then the 2 branches are your arms. Aim, so making sure that club face is open and facing the target that they want to hit towards. And stance, making sure that the students are square to the target, so side on, but also I don't like to say shoulder width. Students find their own comfortable distance. If it's narrow, if it's wide, if it's shoulder width, so be it. It's got to be comfortable for you. And then finally the swing, so putting, I use rock and roll shoulders, so everything else stays still and our shoulders are the things that are tilting, so that's rock and roll shoulders. If we're using irons, I say paint the smiley face. Dip your head of the club in the paint, and we're painting a smiley face one way in our backswing, and then through and finishing it off in our forward swing, and making sure that that back and that forward swing are matched up, so we have an even smiley face, not a lopsided one. Teaching personal and social responsibility in golf is a great opportunity. It's talking about respect, effort, participation, caring for others, and respecting the rules and ethics of golf. So social interaction and human connection through golf is one of the big things that I love about the sport, but also human diversity as well. So we could talk about meeting new people on the golf course, the role of Tiger Woods on diversity and racing golf, probably heading towards more the secondary area there. Respect and honesty, so understanding the heritage and history of golf, strange idiosyncrasies of golf, the golf code and ethics of golf, so the scoring, the clapping, leaving tees behind on par 3s, the winner of the hole takes the honour from teeing off the next hole first. Mindfulness, we can talk about the landscape of golf courses, the mental visualisation that goes into golf shots. Jason Day is a great example for this. He visualises every single shot by closing his eyes, standing behind the ball before he goes and hits it. And emotional regulation as well. There's a great YouTube clip here that I won't show from a YouTuber who tries to get a hole-in-one with 100 balls. And he tries to do it, and he goes through a certainly emotional roller coaster throughout that. He's really high and excited, and then all of a sudden the realization that he may not get there. Then he starts to get a little bit closer and starts feeling his rhythm with his shot. So you can talk about that. We're using that clip as a stimulus. Sport education in golf is something that I love capping my units off with. So we had a bit of a carnival to finish off our unit. Students had different roles such as team captains, coaches. We had architects, which helped me design the course in our school environment, and we used everything, and I mean everything. We used the oval, we used the bark or wood chips, we used the sand pits, we used the playground, and students used their hitting mats around in the different holes around the school. We had equipment managers to make sure that everything was cleaned and looked after, and we had officials which were regulating the rules and the ethics of golf and determining whether balls were out of bounds, whether there was a penalty in a shot, and so on. So we had a bit of a collaborative within a competitive environment. So students were in pairs, and each hole they count their own shots with their own ball, but their scores would then be combined with their partners to have a total. So if I was playing with a partner and I got a 6 and my partner got a 4, we would combine that for a 10. And on hole 1, we got 10. So it's a bit of a collaborative within a competitive environment, and students loved it. It was disappointing because we couldn't go to our local golf course, which we were going to. So we had a little bit of a carnival and tournament at our own school, and students loved it, absolutely thrived off it. Now, the thematic approach is certainly something that's really big in PE at the moment with game sense. So you could run a unit where there is a theme of modifying the force and direction to reach or hit a target in golf. So rather than not in golf, sorry, rather than just golf, you could use a different range of target activities such as frisbee or disc golf. You could have mini golf, putt-putt, soccer golf, croquet, lawn bowls, bocce, all talking around and centered around that theme of how do we change the force and direction to make sure that we reach, hit, or get into the target that we're aiming for. And how do they differ across different settings, different equipment, different rules? Um, and it opens up the discussions to so much more, but also it doesn't also pigeonhole the kids to just learn the single skill of golf. You could start to extend students with different equipment, different rules, and different constraints. Within the My Golf program, though, they also allow you a little bit of excess money for extracurricular opportunities. So accessing your local golf course for an excursion. We had it all lined up, but obviously with the COVID restrictions coming in place at around that time, we had to cancel it. So we had a booking ready for the driving range, the putting green, and also their PGA professional was going to come along and give students some little tips and tricks. I've heard of schools running par 3 competitions at their local course. So on longer holes, they bring the tee off closer to the hole and they run par 3 competitions across the front 9 or back 9 of their local golf course. Secondary schools, golf carnivals are becoming more and more popular in Victoria. I'm not sure about Tasmania, but inter-school carnivals within your local region or district are becoming more and more popular. So that about wraps it up, guys. I want to say thank you very much to ACHPER Tas for having me along. Again, I'm sorry if I ran a little bit over time, but there's lots and lots we can talk about and discuss in terms of how we can implement this great game into our primary school curriculum. If you want to get in touch with me, please email me at casey.young@education.vic.gov.au or access me on Twitter. I'm relatively active on Twitter. So flick me a message, tag me, whatever, and I'll try and sort of collaborate with you. But most of all, guys, get golf involved in your PE curriculum. It's an amazing sport. There's so many opportunities, but apply for the My Golf program in sporting schools. Applications tend to open around about 3 to 4 weeks before every term. So punch in your application. More often than not, you'll get approved with some money, be it big, be it small, but any money that we can get into this learning area to really bring it back to the forefront of education because it's so important, is so beneficial for you and your students. So I hope you got something out of it. And I know when you listen to talks, there's a lot to take in, but if you take away 1 or 2 things, go and implement it, try it. If it doesn't work, modify it to make it work for you and your school. But thank you very much, guys. I hope you got something out of it. And yeah, I suppose we'll open it up to the floor for any questions now.